So, two parts today. We've got pages and we've got the actual cover. So I'm going to start with the pages. Everything you guys are going to need for this is either in this box on the back table or it's by the front door kind of below the light switches. So to start, I need 4 pages, 4 pieces of paper for the pages. I am going to start by folding these in half. Now, I know it's going to seem really easy to just stack them on top of each other and fold them in half, but I'm going to tell you, please do not do this. You're going to want to fold them one at a time, that way you get a nice crisp edge and your pages line up the best that they can. So I'm going to fold them one at a time, corner to corner, and crease. And I know you guys probably figured there's not a tool for creasing pages, right? There is. It's called a bone folder. So there's actually a tool that's been made to help you crease pages. So I'm going to crease it myself, and then I'm going to use the bone folder to just go over the crease. The bone folder makes a super crisp, flat crease. So that's why it's better to use the bone folder than to just crease it with your hands. We want these pages to be as straight and lined up as possible. I'm just going to use the bone folder and crease them. Alright, so 4 creased pages. Now I can stack them inside of each other. So I'm stacking them inside of each other. Make sure they're all lined up. And then I am going to put them down on the table like the roof of a house. Okay, so I want to see the roof of a house here. I'm going to grab a ruler. And does somebody have a pencil I can borrow? There's one. Oh, here we go. This one's close. Okay, I forgot mine. So I've got a pencil. I'm going to line up my ruler on the crease of my book, and I'm going to make just a little tiny tick mark at 2 inches. Hey, ladies in the back. 4 inches and 6 inches. This is where I'm going to sew my book together because we're going to be sewing this book together. Okay, so just like a real book, we're going to sew it together. Next step is to take this needle tool. In pottery, it's called a needle tool. In bookmaking, it's called an awl. Okay? And I'm going to very carefully poke holes on this crease. Now, please be careful. Keep in mind where your fingers are on the other side. It is sharp. It's going to go through 4 pieces of paper. It will also poke your hand if your fingers are in the way. Okay? So right on the crease, I'm going to poke a hole where I made those little tick marks. I'm going to put that back, and I'm just going to leave this on the table, same way like a roof. Next step, we're going to sew it together. So I've got these needles and a thicker thread. You don't need a lot of this. We're only going to sew a little tiny bit here. So I'm just going to cut between, I would say about 1.5 feet, no more than 2 feet of string here. I'm going to thread my needle. The eye of these needles are pretty big, so you shouldn't have a super difficult time threading them. Okay, so we'll have an equal amount on both sides. So you're gonna lace it through. You do not need to tie a knot at the end. So you can just leave it, kind of fold it in half. All right, so sewing this together. I'm gonna start with my book like a roof. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go down through the center hole. Go down through the center. And I'm going to leave a couple inches of thread on the outside of my book. I'm going to take my needle and go up through one of the outside holes. Pull it tight, but don't pull this string all the way through. And then I'm going to take it all the way over to the far end. Go back down to the inside of my book, and then I'm going to go back through the center. And I'm going to try to make this needle go on the other side. So there should be one end of the thread on the left side and one end of the thread on the right side. I'm going to pull these kind of snug, but not so tight where it's ripping the holes. And then I can cut off my needle. Now it's ready for the next person to use. I only have 2 needles back here, so only 2 of you are going to be able to work on this at a time. That's why I'm giving you until the end of the hour tomorrow. I'm going to put those back. Now I need to tie this. I am going to make sure it's snug, and I'm just going to put 2 or 3 knots in it, just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. So 1, 2 knots. And then I can trim the edges. You're going to want about 1 inch of string left on the book. So you're going to have about 1 inch of string left. That way, just in case it comes untied, you can retie it. You can see the inside. There's the 2 little strips of string, and it folds like a book. It's not going to fall apart. Okay, so now you have your pages. Good with pages? So now we got the pages, we need the cover. Okay, so we need the cover. I'm going to do white just so the video can see my lines today. You can choose between brown, black, or white. Doesn't matter to me, it's your preference, whichever you choose is fine. So I'm going to start by making a straight line across my paper about 1/4 of the way down. So 1/4 of the way down, about. It can be rough. And then I'm going to take 2 of these boards that are the same size or as close to being the same size as possible. So choose 2 that are pretty much the same size. They'll vary just a tiny bit, but they should all be pretty close to the same size. I am going to trace these onto my white paper. So I'm going to line this up. I want to make sure that there's room for both of these on the paper, so I'm going to kind of center it. I'm going to take the first one and I'm just going to trace around the outside. Okay, so there's the first one. I'm going to remember to put that one here. And then the second one, I actually need to leave a little gap between the 2 boards. Why do you guys think that is?
So you can fold it.
Yeah, so I can fold it. Because if I put the boards right next to each other, when I close the book, the seam or the spine of the book is just going to rip. And then you won't have a book. You'll just have 2 boards again. So I'm going to leave 1/4 of an inch, so 1/4 of an inch. Just going to make a little tick mark with my ruler. And then I'm going to trace my second board. Now, if this does not line up absolutely perfectly, it will be okay. Okay, so you're just going to try to get it as close as you can. So there's the second one. Now, I've got where the boards are going to be, but there is actually a little bit of paper that folds over to make the edges of that cover nice and clean. I'm going to trace my ruler on all 4 sides of where I'm going to put these boards so I know what's going to fold over and what I can cut off, because we don't need all of this paper. I just make it this big so you guys can make sure to center and have enough paper. Alright, so I traced all 4 sides. Now, what do you guys think? When I fold over these sides, am I going to have any issues?
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the issue going to be?
You're going to see the mess.
The corners. Yes, the corners are going to be an issue. So I need to cut off some of this. I'm going to line up my ruler on the corner. I want to try to make it even on both sides. So I don't want it like this, where I've got this huge line here and a small line here. I'm going to try to make it even. So I'm cutting off a nice right triangle. I do that on all 4 sides. Now, if it's not perfect, again, it'll be okay. But you want to try to get as close to even as possible. All right, so 4 sides. Page should look like this. Okay? Should look like this when you are done. Okay, I'm gonna cut it all off now. That way I don't have so much I'm working with when I'm trying to glue everything down. Alrighty. This can go in the recycling. In case you haven't found the garbage cans yet, there's recycling by the front door. Over by my podium, there is a garbage can, and there's also one back here. So if you could just toss that in the garbage for me. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've got my paper. I need to glue down my pieces of mat board. So I'm going to go ahead and use rubber cement for this step. I can easily spread it out over the whole entire board. You just need a thin layer. You don't need giant gobs of rubber cement. You don't want it to ooze out all over the place. I'm just going to put this on both boards. Alright, and I'm going to glue them down. I actually swapped this by accident. It shouldn't make a huge difference, but so I'm going to try to get that lined up where I drew my boxes. Then I've got to press them down for a little bit. Rubber cement does not dry instantly, okay? You have to kind of press it down to make sure it's going to hold. So you can see my book should fold. Just press everything down. Alrighty, now these edges, I need to take care of those. I am not going to use rubber cement. Why should I not use rubber cement? To glue this part here. What do you think? A guess. Alright, it's gonna ooze out all over the place, and that's gonna be a giant mess. So I'm gonna use glue stick. I'm gonna recommend the purple glue. Okay, it goes on purple, it dries clear, you can see where you actually have glue, so you can be sure that everything is gonna stick down the way you want it to. So I'm gonna start with one flap. I like to start with the shorter ones, it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna glue the whole flap. And then I am going to fold it over and press it down. I'm going to run over that a couple times, make sure it's stuck down all the way. And then I'm just going to work around in kind of a square. Make sure the whole flap has glue on it. Fold it over, press it down. You can tell if you have nice even corners, if you cut the corners even when they line up like this. If they don't line up perfectly, it's okay. Not the end of the world. Okay. Second short edge. Fold it over. And the last one. Alright, so it looks like 2 of my corners lined up pretty close, 2 of them not as close, but that's okay. So now I have the cover of my book, I've got the pages of my book, now I need to glue the 2 together and then you'll be ready to go. Start gluing images in your book. Cover. So I'm going to make sure it folds over nice. I am going to use rubber cement for this part. The reason I want you to use rubber cement, it is really sticky when it finally sticks. You don't want your pages falling out of your book. I'm going to go close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge of my cover because the pages of my book are actually smaller than my cover. That way we don't have pages hanging outside the book. Okay. So I'm just going to put rubber cement on both covers, both sides.
I love this one. I like the worst on that.
I don't think that's a good thing. Alright, so I am putting a nice layer. I don't want giant gobs of it, but I need enough to cover the whole thing. Okay, and I'm going to place the pages in my book here. So I'm going to try to just get it lined up as even as I can for right now. One good thing about rubber cement is it can be, you can move the item around a little bit before it finally kind of sticks. So I'm going to put my pages in, get them even, and then I'm going to shut my book. I need to make sure my book shuts and opens. Okay, sometimes the pages get a little finicky. They don't like to shut and open. So here you can see my book doesn't open all the way. I need to kind of press this down a little bit, hold the pages down. The spine of my book might crease a little if I'm trying to get these to stay without the book kind of staying open. So I'm just press these down, open and close it a couple times. Make sure it's actually gonna stay the way I want it. If you guys end up with a crease like this in your spine, that's okay. That means it's probably going to open and close the right way. And then when these pages dry, You can maybe see, not really with all the white, but you can see there's some rubber cement that kind of leaked out the side. When this is dry, you just rub your finger on it, and the rubber cement will just go away. Okay? So then you got a book. You can label your pages and start putting your images in it.